Good evening, everyone. About a year ago, some bloke called me up in Uganda and said, would you like to fly to Denver for the afternoon? Because we want to organize a new bike race in Colorado. I don't think he actually knew where Uganda was at the time, so a 23-hour flight later, I came to meet the organizers of what has turned out to be a brilliant race. Last year, we saw the race start in the Springs. This year, if you look over to, well, my left-hand side, your right-hand side, I don't think you can get a more beautiful backdrop for the start of a bike race. I think last year the race was great. When you put a race on for the first time and you get 1 million people stand at the side of the road, bearing in mind you can get about 100,000 into the Super Bowl, 1 million people at a first attempt is not a bad job, Colorado. However, this year the organization have told me it's going to be bigger, it's going to be better. And I think the economy has already been boosted because many of you may know that I live in Uganda. And when you live in Uganda, a knife is a real knife. So I went down to the local store here this afternoon, I bought myself a Bowie knife, and it's very impressive. And I will be taking it back to Uganda and telling people, this is a knife. It's my great honor, and normally I think a lot of you know I speak French, so it's very difficult for me this evening to figure out how I would say Maire de Lyon. They said, no, this is the city of Durango, so you better introduce Maire de Lyon.
Good evening. Thank you all very much for coming tonight. You know, we have a wonderful week of events that is leading up to the bike race on Monday, and it would not have been possible without the work of hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, and most particularly 28 members of what we call the local organizing committee that have been working night and day for about 6 months. I mean, these people are sending each other emails at midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're getting immediate responses because everybody is online working and communicating with each other. And so before we get started tonight, can we please have a huge round of applause for all those people that made this possible? We have a lot of old friends in the audience tonight, and a lot of new friends too. And to those of you that have never been to Durango before, we welcome you. And we encourage you to come back again and again and find out what we know about Durango. That it is a wonderful place to live, work, and play. We have 4 seasons of activity that we enjoy year-round, whether we're adventure seekers or art seekers or looking for family fun, or we just want to enjoy some of our many restaurants. And by the way, we have more restaurants per capita than San Francisco. We do. But you know, one of the things we're most proud of, I'm going to make a large statement here right now, and that is that we do bikes better than any community in America. Yes, we do. We are a gold-level, bicycle-friendly community. We are the home for, gosh, what is it, 40 years of the venerable Iron Horse Bicycle Classic, one of America's premier one-day races and citizen rides. And we are now standing on the campus of the home of the 19-time Division I national champion Fort Lewis College cycling team. Woo! And now we are hosting the overall start of America's premier stage race, the U.S. Pro Cycling Challenge, and we could not be prouder of that. It all starts in Durango. It all starts at Fort Lewis College. It all starts right here, right now. Let's get it started!
As I mentioned a little earlier, I don't think you could get a more fitting backdrop. When I came into Durango last night, I thought, wow, What a great place for the start of the bike race. As Phil said a little bit earlier on today, we thought we were coming into the Wild West, where we've seriously arrived, because Durango is everything we expected it was going to be from the tales that we heard from a young man who's lived in Durango and went to college here, Tommy Danielson, and of course an older man. And of course an older man who regales us with stories of Durango, Bob Rolle, but we wouldn't be able to have a start if it wasn't for the Dean of Fort Lewis College, Dean K. Thomas.
As president of Fort Lewis College, it is my honor to welcome all of you to the Fort Lewis College campus, where our students manage to see the Purple Mountain Majesty right out there every single day they go to class. This is a great day for Fort Lewis College and a great day for Durango. We are the center of college cycling with 19 championships, as Mayor Doug Lyon mentioned. The last 3 years, we are #1 in collegiate cycling. We have been the center of collegiate cycling for the United States of America. And now, for this wonderful moment, we are the center of the pro cycling for the United States of America. This is where students come for quality academic programs, where they come for active minds in active bodies, where they come to be part of our cycling team and our other athletic events, where they come for memorable experiences as they learn and change their lives here at Fort Lewis College. And I hope that for all of you, this evening is a memorable experience on the Fort Lewis College campus. Thank you.
I'm not sure whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but this is the first time I've brought my son to a bike race. My wife hails from South Carolina, and she wants him to go to UNC. And he reckons he's a Tar Heel, but now that he's seen Fort Lewis College, I think he might change his idea. I just hope the fees are reasonable. I started to... I'm going to be asking for discounts as well. I started to tell you a story about this crazy guy who rang me up in Uganda and said, can you pop over to Denver for the afternoon from Kampala? Well, it's been a long relationship with the organization, and I'd like to introduce the gentleman who was the start of that story, because I think he's very happy with what he's built up, with what happened last year, and what he's expecting to happen this year, because we expect to go more than 1 million spectators at the event this year. So I'd like to bring to the dais the CEO of the USA Pro Challenge, Mr. Shawn Hunter.
You know when you're in the right party, when you've got Phil and Paul and Bob Key. And let's give them a big round of applause. How cool is that? Quick show of hands, how many people went to the press conference today? So quite a few of you, but I don't think you mind seeing this again. I said today at the press conference, pictures are more powerful than words. So if you don't mind, let's take 2 minutes and look at what happened, the moment of truth that happened in Colorado last August in 2011.
Cycling road racing is back in Colorado. This is the greatest bike race in America's history. Some of the best cyclists from around the world are in Colorado. Seen by millions of people in more than 160 countries. Well, never before have the top 3 finishers in the Tour de France participated in a bike race on American soil.
They're calling this the Tour de France Colorado style.
The USA Pro Cycling Challenge, the best and biggest bike race in American history. The first ever USA Pro Cycling Challenge put Colorado and Denver on a worldwide stage.
Hundreds of millions of viewers saw Denver and Colorado.
600-mile ride around Colorado. Start right here in Colorado Springs, Crested Butte, to Aspen, Vail, Steamboat, Breckenridge, and finish at the Capitol in Denver.
The race features 128 pros. See some of the greatest riders in the world, including Cadel Evans and Andy Schleck, 1-2 at the Tour de France.
We have the top 3 finishers here. That would be the first time ever an American race has the top 3 in the Tour.
That yellow jersey better be a one-size-fits-all, because there's been a different leader every day.
It has given us a superb group with a superb field at altitude.
These guys are going to be rolling over mountain peaks 14,000 feet in elevation. Can you imagine riding a bike, racing over Monarch Pass?
Breckenridge is bursting at the seams right now.
Hotel bookings are at 27%.
Will generate as much as $100 million in direct economic impact. Tons of people coming, spending time, spending money.
This race is expected to draw 25,000 people to the town of Salida, which will easily more than triple the population here.
It has to be the largest crowd for a sporting event in Colorado history. This is bringing in huge crowds. Huge crowds. Fans are chasing the race through multiple cities.
Look for those crowd numbers to get even bigger and bigger.
It is incredible to see the crowd along the course, the energy here, and it's so Colorado.
We've had people as far away as Australia too come out and visit us.
It's not often you get to see this caliber of pro athlete in your backyard.
Thank you to all the fans who came out this week. It's been phenomenal. I don't know if I've ever seen a big crowd as this in the United States. It's a beautiful day. Sky falls and feel like it's a beautiful day. To get away.
This is a most incredible end to what has been a fantastic tour here. Levi Reichheimer has now won the USA Pro Cycling Challenge.
We knew we were going to be drawing out some big crowds, but it's just so nice to be able to bring it to Colorado, because this is where stage racing in America was really born.
There has not been a dull moment yet in the USA Pro Cycling Challenge.
This will do for Colorado what the Tour de France does for Europe.
I'm saying this event could become Colorado's Kentucky Derby. This race is here to stay. It's only going to get bigger and better.
We have the numbers, we have the enthusiasm. I can't imagine what it's going to be like next year.
So if the entire local organizing committee would stand. In particular, Sherry Dugdale and Mary Monroe. They were your local organizing committee chairs. Phenomenal job. And President Thomas, Mayor Lyon, thank you for your great leadership. We made the comment today, and I believe it to be true, and the writers acknowledged it. Of any American racing history, I don't think I've ever seen a city this prepared, this well-led, and this passionate. So, congrats. I also want to acknowledge what they call the Gang of Six. We have 3 of the Gang of Six, I think. And Lance Armstrong, I thought this was urban legend. I told this story last year. It's true. Lance went on a long ride from Aspen to Glenwood, and he called then Governor Ritter and said, you know, and I think he actually took the call. You know, it's kind of like, hey, this is Lance or this is Bono, but I think he took the call, and Lance and the governor got together, and they formed what is the Gang of Six. Ken and Tom Gart, Governor Ritter, Connie Carpenter, George McLaughlin, and Bob Shaver. And they had the foresight to put the vision together. And they ultimately, I'm going to talk about a man here and a gentleman, they found the right leader and they found the right owner of this race, and that's why we're all sitting here tonight. So they're sitting at this table right here, and I would like to thank the Gang of Six. In 2011 was pretty cool. It was a moment of truth. You know, Rick and I we had some good laughs. You know, at this time about last year, you know, we were, as Rick said, we were having our holy smoke moment. People were wondering, you know, is it the Quiznos Pro Challenge? Is it the Tour of Colorado? No, it's the USA Pro Challenge. Over 1 million people. It was broadcast in 161 countries around the world, and the economic impact was almost $100 million, which is pretty amazing, which is great. It's going to be even better this year for the people that come in and come into cities like Durango. Yesterday I was doing business in Aspen, and they're full for their day next week. So it's going to be a big year, I think, for all of us. 2012 is going to be even better. 40,000 feet of vertical climbing, 3 uphill finishes, 700 miles. The best grand depart maybe of any American race ever in Durango. And then what I think it will be great live theater on Sunday with the time trial in Denver. As you know, last year, 52 seconds separated the top 7 guys, including Cadel Evans. So I think this year, after 700 miles, this race could go down live on international television, and one of 10 to 12 guys could take it. So we're very excited. It's going to be fun. You know, last and very much most importantly, we would not be here tonight without a family that's very important. I had the good fortune to work with Jim Burrell and launch the Tour of California, which is a brilliant race. It just completed its 7th year, but these events are not for the weak. It takes a deep, deep financial commitment. It takes big vision, and it takes great. It takes patience and passion. And the Shadden family, Rick and Rick, his wife Cheryl, they are the reasons. Yes, they do deserve a standing ovation. I'm not going to tell you how much money we put in because Rick would shoot me. But we, ladies and gentlemen, would not be here without him. So Rick and Cheryl are here. The only thing that makes me sad is his father couldn't be with us tonight. He's on an international trip. But to see him on the podium last year, I've never seen a smile that big. And he's going to be back in 2013. But let me tell you something, folks. This is America's race. We're here for the long term. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't charge out right now. But I've been asked by the Major League to let you know you have had a chocolate dessert. And during the course of this evening, they'll be serving an extremely good peach cobbler outside. There's enough for everybody, but it is being served outside. So if you go out in 1s and 2s, don't empty the room. What Shawn was talking about, putting something on like this, is it's all about teamwork. And I had to do some teamwork this afternoon because a few years ago, a bloke said to me, "Do you want to do a bit of television commentary?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I've started television commentary with that bloke 27 years ago, and we're still together now. But I am going to tell you something about the next gentleman to come up that you might not have known. He's actually an avid train spotter. I had to go down to the roundhouse on the railway line here today and drag him away because he was absolutely pouring his eyes out over a 125-year-old locomotive that he actually wants to go to Silverton tomorrow. I told Phil it's 9.5 hours there and back, so you can't. Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Liggett. You can stand here. Don't say anything for the moment because as soon as he gets the microphone, I'll never be able to say anything else again. We worked together for a while before all of a sudden they introduced a third party to the team. And we always regarded him as a poet. And he still is a bit of a poet to this day. And now that we've been here, now that we've finally seen Durango, we now know why he likes to live here and why he likes to come back here every time he comes away, because it makes the man Bob Rolle.
Well, last year I introduced the three of us as the good, the bad and the ugly. But I can't say that now because we're in Bob Rolle's hometown. And if you just stand on the edge there, apparently you can see Bob's house. There's a hell of a party going on there right now. So if we go shortly, you know where we are. Well, it's true that what happened actually. I walked down to the engine sheds at the station, and the driver came up in his 1827 loco, just coming from Silverton, leaned out the window and says, "I guess you're in town for the bike race." I said, "Yes." But that was a great cue then, because then he was willing to talk about the history of the locomotive, and I went into the roundhouse, and it was fantastic. I met a lot of people on the station too, and they come in from Phoenix, from Flagstaff, they come in from New York City, they come in from Oklahoma, and they were in to do both the locomotive trip and, of course, to watch the events start tomorrow. I think, in all sincerity, I've seen most of the world in my career. I'm very lucky, most in the last 3 weeks, I think. And I think I just found a place I'd really like to live. I've only had 4 hours in this town. We got in at the airport at 11 o'clock, and somebody from United Airways finally came to see us. We got out of the airport at 12 o'clock, and it was already 7 o'clock in the morning by my body clock. And so I've only actually walked around the town for 4 hours, and the feel is fantastic. It's a lovely town. So I'm very pleased to say that the US Pro Challenge has chosen Durango, and I hope it comes back every year. If it does, sorry, Shawn. But now is the time to meet the quality of the cyclists who has come here to ride. The fact that these big names, and they don't particularly like travelling to far off shores, it's a sport that was born and bred in Europe, it's spread its wings. But after a long, hard season, to get these boys normally to travel so far away, frankly, they're fed up and don't want to do it. That's never been the case last year or this year. The big names are here because they want to be in the USA and they want to be in Colorado. So, let's meet them. And we're going to go in team order as they will come on stage. Now, as you know, we've got the World Tour teams, we've got the Pro UCI Continental teams. For the non-initiated, the World Tour teams are in effect the Formula One teams of the world of cycling, and the others basically are young teams either growing up or big teams who want to take the final step into races like the Tour de France. In all cases, they're blooming good bike riders. So let's start with a team that impressed us in the Tour of California this year and has gone on impressing the world ever since. And I would like you now to welcome on stage the team from Bontrager Livestrong, led by Josh Atkins, Charlie Avis, Lawson Craddock, Joe Dombrowski, Ryan Eastman, Conor O'Leary, James Oram and Gavin Marion, the team Bontrager Livestrong. Over to Bob and Paul.
I'm going to start with Lawson Craddock, ask a couple of questions. Stage winner earlier this year in the Tour of the Gila, one of the toughest stage races in the United States. Not too far away from here, as the crow flies. What was it like to be racing as the very best and win a stage at the Tour of the Gila this year?
It was extremely exciting. Definitely a hard race and one of the hardest races in America. So to go there and come away with such success is definitely a great feeling.
One race I always dreamed of doing well in was a one-day classic you might have heard of called Paris-Roubaix. And as a junior, Lawson entered the velodrome with the lead group racing for the win and got third in Paris-Roubaix for the juniors. What was that like?
That was actually a moment that I'll never forget. And there's a few moments on a bike that I'll always remember and I'll tell my grandkids about. And one was Paris-Roubaix, and I'm sure the next one will be the USA Pro Cycling Challenge.
All right, thank you very much. Good luck.
A little bit later on, we'll talk to the man who won the Giro d'Italia, which is the Tour of Italy, a 3-week stage race with the elite. But this young man, Joseph Dombrowski, he won what we call the Baby Giro. That's the Giro d'Italia for under 23 years of age. Now, to win something like that, it's the start of a big career, but you have to be in a team like this. This is a development squad, isn't it?
Yeah, we're all of us here are U23 riders, and the aim of this team is to get us riding in races like the Big Giro. But for now, we do races like the Baby Giro and get experience, a little bit in big races like this as well.
This is a little bit different, though, because even all of the Europeans, we talked about it last year, that this is serious altitude. It's not 2,000, 3,000 meters. We're talking 4,000 meters in altitude. Is there any special requirement to get ready for this race?
For sure. We've been pretty lucky in that we got the opportunity to do Tour of Utah last week, and we've spent the last 3 weeks or so at altitude, but definitely spending some time out here ahead of time just acclimating is really important because, like you said, altitude this high makes a really big difference in a race like this.
It certainly does, and I'd be remiss if I wasn't to introduce the team manager down here, by the way, because he carries a very famous name. He's lived up to his reputation. This is Axel Merckx. His dad won the Tour de France 5 times. But Axel, although your dad was one of the greatest bike riders of all time, you actually did something that your dad never did. You got yourself an Olympic gold medal, and I saw him crying when you did that. That was in Athens.
Yeah, it was. Every time I watch the Olympics, and this year again, you watch the road race, and you think back, and you grew up as a kid, and you always hope to be on the podium. And I got a text message from my sister that morning, and she's like, "If you can't do something for the Merckx team, get a medal because we don't have those." So I did it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bontrager Livestrong team. They're a great team. They will be aggressive in this race. Congratulations.
So now we welcome a team from Colombia. It is the EPM-UNE team, led on stage by Rafael Infantino, Camilo Castiblanco, Francisco Colorado, that's a good name, isn't it? Ramiro Rincon, Robigzon Oyola, Freddy Piemonte, Eduard Beltran, Javier Gomez, and the director is Gabriel Mesa. Team EPM-UNE.
I'm going to try to massacre Spanish for a few minutes, so hopefully it'll go smoothly. Hoy en ciclismo mundial tenemos muchos corredores colombianos que están muy fuertes, como Henao, Quintana, y Rigoberto Urán. Tú también. ¿Por qué piensas hoy tenemos muchos corredores fuertes de Colombia al momento?
Porque Colombia siempre los ha tenido, solo que ahora les han dado más oportunidad de estar en los equipos grandes. Es juventud que viene renovando de nuevo los tiempos de Lucho Herrera, de los Fabio Parra. Y pues ahora estamos de nuevo nosotros aquí y esperamos dar un bonito espectáculo para todos ustedes.
Rafael says that the greatest sports commentator in the history of mankind is Phil Liggett. Now in Colombia now there's some great young bike racers that are equal to the legends of Fabio Parra and Lucho Herrera that were big stars in the Tour de France, and current pros like Rigoberto Urán and Sergio Henao and Quintana, and this man right here, Rafael Infantino. He was very successful in last year's USA Pro Challenge and looking for success, but it's a question of support. And now in Colombia, there's a lot of big cycling teams, and they enjoy support from corporations so they can travel, and they're very happy to be competing here in the USA Pro Challenge. So, and en las subidas que dice, año pasado, muy fuerte a la etapa en Aspen, ¿qué piensas este año?
Pues, pienso volver, como te digo, un buen espectáculo, andar duro donde somos fuertes en la montaña, el equipo está muy bien preparado y bueno, como te digo, esperamos que vamos a luchar para ganar la carrera.
They're going to try to win the stage, and they're going to light the roads on fire, and it's going to be spectacular. So watch for the EPM riders to do well this week. Thank you very much.
Stop showing up, Bob, just because you live here. All right.
You did say you were the greatest.
Well, you did. I'll give you. I didn't hear that myself, but anyway. Team number 3, the Optum Pro Cycling, presented by Kelly Benefit Strategies. All the members are from the USA except 2 who come from Canada, so we'll call this a North American team. Jess Anthony, Andrew Bahadali, Alexander Candelario, Michael Creed, Tom Zerbal, Sebastian Salas, Marsh Cooper, Michael Friedman, led with the team manager Jonas Carney.
There's been some fires in the front range. We've gotten a little bit of the smoke down here. But this young man's had a charity auction to benefit the people that are definitely suffering from this. Take us through that a little bit, would you?
Basically, I made a lot of people donate their own personal items. I didn't do anything. I gave it to somebody else on eBay to sell, and then I got all the credit, and I'm basically a hero.
How much money was raised up?
$35,000.
Next up, Tom Zerbal, one of the time trial specialists here from the Optum squad, and recent winner of the Nature Valley Grand Prix because of time trialing plus. Defending the lead jersey in any stage race is very difficult. And how did that transpire just a few weeks ago up in Minnesota?
Yeah, I was trialing really well. And I got the jersey, then proceeded to lose it that night. And luckily we got the jersey back on the hard road stage, and then these guys rode brilliant to help me defend it on the last day.
And there's a time trial in this year's USA Pro Challenge on the last day of the bike race in Denver. Are you looking forward to that stage?
Definitely, yeah. I'm definitely got my sights on that. I think I haven't really looked at the profiles, but I think there's a couple of hills before then.
Just a few.
Yeah, definitely. 6 days, got to survive, but yeah, Sunday is.
All right, well, best of luck.
Well, talking about hills, Bob. There's a lot of hills in Colorado. I don't know if you noticed, if you just like to look out the window here, but Sebastian Salas from Canada who was a man who battled out for the King of the Mountains prize in the Andean Tour of California, the early part of this year. What about these mountains here?
They look pretty big. I'm going to give it a go and hopefully be the first over the mountains.
I'm not sure if you spotted the team that came up just a little bit earlier was from Colombia. They kind of like this kind of terrain, you know.
My dad's Colombian, so I got some good blood in me.
I've learned something tonight. We're going to see some action. We certainly will on the hills and mountains of Colorado.
Well, off they go to bed now. Then again, they might be going to 8th Street, to the brewing pub I've seen down there. Onwards we go. Now, Team Exergy now, presented by anybody, only me. The team is Kirk Carlson from the USA, from Colombia, Andreas Diaz-Corrales, Matthew Cook from USA, from Switzerland, Noe Gianetti, USA Morgan Schmidt, USA Fred Rodriguez, Fast Freddy, from Moldavia, I think, Sergei Vetkov, USA Sam Johnson, led on by the manager George Hamilton. Team Exergy. Over to Bob Rolle.
Quick word. Fast Freddy Rodriguez, stage winner, one of the very few in the Giro d'Italia. Freddie, what are your hopes here at the USA Pro Challenge for this week's racing?
The stage win, of course, yeah.
You've been tantalizingly close last year in this race on your comeback year, also recently in the Tour of Utah. So how's the form now coming into this week's race?
Much better than last year, so I'm very excited. You know, I had a little bit of a summer call in Utah, but felt great last week, and I'm very excited about this next week. We have a very strong team. You know, Exergy, we put a lot of effort into this race, and this is our last race of the year. We're going to get everything out.
All right, best of luck.
Bob, you missed a Boulder resident down there, I think, a little bit further down. Because Matty Cook, you're from Boulder, Colorado.
Yes, I am.
Now that we've come down here to Durango, we've seen where Tommy Daniels used to live, where Bob Rolle does live. Why don't you live here?
You know,
be careful, be careful.
I'm not going to mince words. Boulder's better. I can.
Right, you can go.
Look, I can walk to Whole Foods. walk everywhere. I don't even use a car. Everyone looks good. Everyone is smart.
Excuse me. Phil Liggett walked to the railway station today.
Listen, the second thing I was going to say is I love Durango. And I've been here multiple times, and I wish I could live here. This is where my wife wants me to live in Boulder.
Anyway, ladies, we've been an aggressive team. We look forward to seeing Fast Freddy out on the road as well. Team Exergy from the United States.
Yeah, well, Boulder hasn't got a steam train anyway. Now, a team that's been an ever-present at all of the promotions by medalists over the years is Bissell Pro Cycling. They've always played a prominent part, and they'll probably be in the first attack when we leave Durango on Monday. So please welcome now the team from Bissell Pro Cycling: Chris Baldwin, Jeremy Fennell from New Zealand, Ben Jacques-Mains, Carter Jones, Frank Pipp, Patrick Bevan, Julian Kaya and Joseph Schmaltz. All USA expect 2. Omar Kem and Glenn Mitchell are the directors. Team Bissell Pro Cycling. Nice colours.
Pretty good. Quick word with a local Coloradan, Chris Baldwin. How nice is it to have such a big race in the state of Colorado?
I've been waiting my whole career to have a race here in Colorado, showcase the state, and it's such a thrill. Just go on and on. I hope there's a lot of longevity.
2 weeks or maybe 1 week?
No, I don't want it to be any longer at one given time. I don't know.
Had some good legs in the Tour of Utah recently. What are you expecting here for this week's racing?
The level's so high at these races. We're thrilled to be here and race aggressively and kind of animate the race and hope for the best.
A couple springs ago, your team that you were about to race for fell apart. Bissell took up the mantle, and what does it feel like to still be racing for them?
It's an honor. I love this team, and I think everything works out for a reason. And left without a team, I found a team that I love way more than I would have the team that I was on. So sometimes things happen for a reason.
All right, well, best of luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a chance to introduce a guy from New Zealand, a Kiwi. Very aggressive bike rider, very aggressive team actually. That seems to be the philosophy of your team. You're not scared, Team Bissell, about any of the reputations of the big teams that come over, the teams we'll introduce a little bit later on. You guys, whenever there's a breakaway, you seem to have the knack of putting a man into the mood.
Well, it takes a lot of work and team effort to do that, and we are scared. I mean, when you go out there and put it on the line before a big mountain, you never know if you're going to make it over the top. But just no fear, that's the attitude we've got, and we'll be doing it again.
That's a good point you raise there, because a lot of people don't understand that there's no substitute for cycling. You can't sit on the sideline, you can't have a timeout. You have to get to the finish of every stage. Even if you do go too deep on one stage, you've got to come out and do it the next day.
Oh yeah, the day after a long breakaway, she's pretty rough. The legs are just pain, and you just got to push through and hope for the next day it might get a bit better. And unfortunately, maybe you'll make the breakaway the next day. So you never know your luck.
Well, I tell you what, I think that was an underestimation. That the pain is going to be very difficult in this race. And I'm sure that we will see the red and black and white jerseys at the front in all of the breakaways, because Team Bissell, they're an aggressive squad.
This team, because we know the coach that looks after the Russian squad, he looked after the Americans, he looked after the Australians, he looked after the Danish, he produced them all into gold medal status, and now, blimey, they're up here already, so they clearly speak no English. And now he looks after this team. So please welcome the team from RusVelo: Matveyev Zubon, Ivan Rovny, Dmitry Kozanchuk, Artem Overkin, Sergei Fersanov, Archimedes Aguilis, that's a good one, Alexander Mironov and Sergei Klimov. And it's an Australian who looks after them from Perth, Henk Vogels.
We scored a winner because I can speak Australian. Henk, as Zdrowie.
It shows you how much I speak in Russian.
Well, that's the problem then. How do you communicate with the lads?
Oh, 4 of them speak perfect English, so... And the others can understand you speak slowly, so... And when you go up to them on the side of the bunch and yell and scream, they generally go to the front.
That's the old Russian school, the big whip and take them up to the front of the main field. But an interesting story actually about this Russian team is because the team manager, one of the guys who put together RusVelo, actually used to coach the Australians, and they became very, very good, as we've seen around the world. He then went to coach the British team, they became very good. Then he went to chase the Danish, They got an Olympic silver medal in 1984. Now he's moved across. Heiko Salzwedel, he's one of the big guys behind the squad, isn't he?
Oh, he's a coaching genius, really. He's taken all these nations from like 15 to 25th in the world to first, second, and third. He's only been with these guys for 18 months, but they've radically improved, including 2 bronze medals at the Olympic Games with the women and the men. It's generally a track program, but there's 20 women, 20 men, and they race full-time on the road. So some very good climbers in this team here. A couple of guys have helped Levi win this tour last year, so they'll have a crack themselves. But yeah, pretty exciting for us to be here.
I mean, you raced all over the world. You raced for Credit Agricole, you raced for all of the big teams. What do you expect after this race over the next couple of days in Colorado?
Apart from the beautiful scenery, we're being realistic against people who can win the Tour de France in this race. I would be extremely happy with a top 5 in the stage win. That's my goal. If it's a top 10 in the stage win, just as happy. But certainly a massive field here with superstars. So, but there are some guys here that can climb. As you can see, the ones with skinny legs, they go uphill pretty fast. So not like the guys like me with the tubby chummies.
Hey, good. I remember when you were pretty skinny. I remember when Bob Rolle was skinny. Do you remember that far back?
Oh, that was even further than my era, mate. So yeah, I have been on a few rides with Bob. He goes alright for someone of my weight.
Ladies and gentlemen, development squad from Russia, RusVelo.
I remember Henk when he was an 18-year-old prodigy racing in Australia, and he punctured near the finish and threw his bike away. Moving on to the Champion Systems Pro Cycling team now. We've got a mixture of German, Chinese, Australian and USA in this team. It's a fully international squad. And please welcome now, first of all, the 2 from the USA, Craig Lewis and Chris Butler. From Germany, Matthias Friedemann. From China, Pengada Zhou and Biao Liu. And from Australia, Will Clark. Also from Australia, Cam Worth. And from China, Gang Zhu. And led on the team director is also a very good ex-rider in Chris Werry.
Almost local, Craig Lewis. I'm trying to recruit him to move to Durango so I can get his wine cellar. Spectacular. If you have any questions about wine, this is your man right here. The structure that you have on this team is pretty unique. Could you explain it a little bit? I've been in the sport for a long time, but I don't understand it myself. So,
well, I mean, I think the biggest thing you can do in a sport like cycling is to help grow it. And our program is going to a country that's as big as China, and we're bringing those riders to Europe and the U.S. to help them learn the sport and help them take it back and hopefully grow it.
And where have you been so far this year racing?
All over. China, a lot in Europe, and then a good bit here in Canada and the U.S.
Are you looking forward to having a tour here in your home state of Colorado?
Very much. Yeah, I've only been a resident for a year, but it has become home very quickly, and I couldn't be more excited.
1 year you're a pioneer, so when you're fast on a bicycle, you have automatic citizenship here in Colorado. So good luck this week.
Thank you.
Well, Bob might be a local here in Durango, but I'm actually a local in a little place called Hilton Head, South Carolina. And strangely enough, this young man, Chris Butler, is from Hilton Head, South Carolina. Now, as Bob was saying a little earlier, you can see by his build that he's a good climber. Now, the highest hill on Hilton Head, South Carolina is actually the bridge that takes you back to the mainland. So how do you learn to climb coming from an island off the eastern seaboard?
Well, my parents kid about that. If Hilton Head spontaneously grew a big mountain, I'd come home a lot more. But in South Carolina, I'd live in Greenville, and there's big mountains out there. And yeah, it's kind of ironic that a climber kid comes from Hilton Head, where I can ride 100 miles and like my total elevation gain is maybe 50 feet the whole ride. So
I just warn you, it's going to be a lot more than that this week.
Oh, I'm sure. Even in the neutral, I'm sure we'll crank that out pretty quick.
You actually moved away from the beach to get up to the mountains to train, and you had a lot of help from a guy by the name of George Hincap. He took you under his wing, and so did his brother Rich for quite a while.
Yeah, they're great guys. That's basically how I started out riding with him, and he kind of put me on the fast track, and definitely has helped me progress throughout my career. And actually, it's kind of special to do his last race with him, so it should be fun.
Special race for you as well this week because there's some big mountains to show us just how quickly you can climb.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I took a mid-season break in June and just came off Utah, felt well, and I feel like in the past week I made a step forward, so hopefully it shows in this race, but we'll see. It seems like the exciting parkour, so...
Okay, we'll let the ladies do the talk. Ladies and gentlemen, champion system from China with a couple of Americans in there as well for the mix.
Moving on to Team Type 1 SANOFI. Now, this is a team that in the last few weeks has had a tremendous round of success, and I think we can expect it to continue right here in this event as well. They're really on a high right now, and they could be flying the flag by the end of day one. Let's hope so. Let's now welcome Team Type 1 SANOFI from USA, Kiel Reinen. From Russia, Alexander Epikin. From France, Julien Elfarez. From Spain, Javier Mezias. From Austria, Georg Pedler. From Switzerland, Rubens Battagliati. From Italy, Alessandro Bassano. And from the USA, Joey Roskopf. And the manager is Jack Seehofer. Now that's an international team for you.
I'd like to introduce you guys to a man whose name is not that easy to say, but I'm going to try. Kiel Reinen, is that close?
Pretty close.
Would you explain the team's mission? It's a little bit different than a lot of teams out there.
Yeah, we're here not just representing ourselves, but the entire diabetic community, and we're out here to show that you can do anything with diabetes. And we have Javier as our type 1 diabetic in the race, and he's here to prove a point. And
a couple years ago, you were third in the National Road Race Championships. What are your goals here for the USA Pro Challenge?
yeah, this is my home race. I'm super excited to be here and have a home crowd, and I just want to leave my guts out on the road.
That can be arranged, yes. Good luck.
Well, all of these teams now are becoming so much more international, whether or not they're based in the United States or whether they're based in Europe. There is an international flavor to all of these cycling teams. But Alexander, actually, you apparently moved to live in Sacramento now.
Yeah, with my brother, we played for training.
So, what do you expect out of this race this week? Because it's a tough race, and you and your brother are good bike riders.
I hope to have good results, not only for myself and for our guys.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, just as a point of order, Rubens Battagliati was a winner of the first stage of the Tour de France a few years ago. It was a little bit of a surprise when he came out of the pack, but he was first man across the line. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Taiwan.
So now we switch our attention towards Canada and the team Spidertech powered by C10. It's a team which has been inspired by Canada's greatest cyclist, Steve Bauer, and is making steady progress towards its goal of one-day riding in the Tour de France. So please welcome now, first of all, the Canadian, David Boyer. From Mexico, Flavio De Luna. From the USA, Lucas Yusa and Khaled Fairley. Back to Canada for Hugo Hull and Ryan Roth. From Canada also, Zach Bell. And from Denmark, Brian Vanborg. And their manager here is Michael Carter.
I got an email message earlier this morning. I was still asleep, but the person that sent it was already up, suited up, and getting ready to ride, so I felt kind of bad. It took me a while to respond. But Lucas User was commenting on the beauty of Durango. How do you like our town?
Man, this place is amazing. You guys did something right.
We just moved here.
No, it's incredible. I mean, obviously, you can look out the tent right there, and it's incredible. And I just moved to Colorado. I moved to Boulder. I haven't actually been down here yet, so I'm mesmerized. It's incredible. So thanks for having us.
Recently in the Tour of Utah, you were right there in the front with the very best. You must have good form. What are you hoping for this week's race?
You know, I went into Utah with the confidence that I know I had done the work, and it showcased with a top 10 finish, and being very aggressive and emerging as a contender for the victory there. and I plan to carry that form into the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, and I'm going to fight for the overall victory.
All right. Did anybody see the Road ID commercials? You might not have recognized one of the guys in the hippie van, but I'm outing him right now. The gong banger from henceforth, Lucas User. Good luck.
It's amazing when I think back to when I was racing. It was kind of the old story: the Englishman, the American, and the Irishman. Because there were only three of us now. There are 3 international American teams: an international Australian team, an international British team, and now we're looking at a team that's trying to build up a team for Canada. Ryan Roth, you're the national champion. I was just checking to see if you were paying attention. Ryan Roth, you're the national champion, and it's really because of Steve Bowers, who was a guy who wore the yellow jersey in the Tour de France for 10 days. It's really his dream to put Canada on the cycling map.
Yeah, he's built the team up to this level over the last 5 years, and I certainly wouldn't have won the national championships without a strong, support of my other Canadian teammates.
But it looks like Spidertech have signed up for a few more years, and it's with a view to building this up to being a team that in a couple of years' time could be a team with a Canadian flavour to participate in the Tour de France.
Yeah, that's the end goal. I think we've kind of taken a step there every single year, and we've renewed with Spidertech for 3 more years, so it looks really good.
You've signed up another Colorado resident, I think. Haven't you signed up Tim Duggan just recently, the American national champion?
Yeah, we'll look good together.
Why is everything to do with cycling in the United States? It might not all be Durango, it might not be Boulder, but even the team manager, Mike Carter, who raced in the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France, he's also from Colorado as well. It's not fair, is it, Phil? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, from Canada, Team Spidertech.
Thank you, guys. The team that's won a race as recently as today, but I am jet-lagged. It might have been yesterday, but I only caught up with the news today. So we're now welcoming on stage UnitedHealthcare Pro Cycling. They're another team that's having a tremendous season. And they're led on by an Australian who's having a tremendous season right here in the USA. So they're led on by Rory Sutherland, followed by another top Aussie in Carl Menzies. And then down in the Summerhill from the USA, from Germany, Robert Foster. From the USA, Jacob Keok. I hope I said that right, Jacob. Australia, Ben Day. And from USA, Chris Jones. And finally, Jeff Lauder. And Mike Tomeo is the director sporty. The team from UnitedHealthcare Pro Cycling.
Well, I think, Phil, Bob, of all the teams that we've had up so far from the United States, this is probably the team that's going to give the biggest threat to a lot of the big international teams. Just had a great deal of success in the Tour of Utah. And if I'm not mistaken, Rory Sutherland, you won the first stage.
I did, and then Jake won the 4th stage as well, so we had a good week.
You've always ridden to form for these bike races here, whether it's the Amgen Tour of California at the start of the year, whether it's this race in Colorado. You seem to be able to peak for these big occasions.
It's important for the sponsor, it's important for UnitedHealthcare and all the sponsors that support us during the year to, in some of these big media-backed events, it is very important for us to show what we can do, and especially when the big teams turn up too.
And nowadays we know the big teams, they take these events very, very seriously. It's difficult to rival some of the big names of the sport, the guys who we see in the Tour de France, the Tour of Spain, Tour of Italy. How do you guys get ready for the big showdown?
We have a lot of fun. We take it very seriously as well, but I think that's one of the great things about our team is that we enjoy ourselves while we're doing it. We take it seriously, but we probably tone it down just a little bit.
Well, they'll be very aggressive, I'm sure, out on the open road.
Everybody knows that this race is very mountainous, but we try to find out if there's any sprint stages. There is one of the fastest sprinters in the world on this team, Jake Keogh, finally. Stage winner recently at the Tour of Utah just last week. Have you identified a stage that might be for the sprinters here?
Yeah, like I said, it's a tough race. I think stage 5 maybe looks like it could be a sprint opportunity. And judging by last year, there's a few stages that, depending on how it's raced, could also be sprint. So we'll be looking for them.
And racing against the best teams in the world, what would be an ideal scenario for the UnitedHealthcare squad?
I think we're here to win races. We had a really good week last week. We're having a lot of fun, and hopefully we can keep that streak going and get a stage win.
Well, best of luck, especially stage 5.